XRP and oligarchy. This is part 3 of our ongoing series. You're going to want to see this for yourself. So, if anything, before we jump into the material with Michael Golpe, once again, we want to point out this. It's actually this QR code above his head, and that is BTCC. This exchange has been around since 2011. They have met the test of time. Get yourself some free USDT. Who doesn't like something that's free? You do some of the other tasks, you might get some other free stuff. Free is cool. You can pair that up with things like BSV. Yeah, as an American, how cool is that? I remember the days of being on KuCoin. A lot of us got kicked off of there and so on because the SEC. But whatever the case be, check it out. They have XRP on there for spot trading. They have Jasmy. They have XLM. And, of course, things like BSV. So, again, scan that QR code at any given time. But whatever the case be, we want you guys to see the meat and potatoes of this outline. We're going to jump right into the material. But before we, again, do so, consider smashing that like. Also, consider checking out Michael Golpe's channel. And I think you're really going to do that here soon, especially after you hear what we have to share. So we're going to jump over to this announcement about oligarchy and the New York DFS. Check it out. First thing is this, and it's from Subjective Views. So I definitely want to give him his kudos, his flowers, and so on. It mentions specifically this key thing. And as we full screen, it's Congress stresses the importance of highly regulated stablecoins, but they specifically mention the New York Department of Financial Services. Michael Golpe is in New York, so you're going to want to stick around and listen to that as well. But is this a coincidence? Well, I think not. Ripple RLUSD is way ahead of the game. How so? Listen to this, and then we'll come back in about roughly 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Here we go.
There's been a lot of concern about debanking crypto companies with mixed messaging from the federal regulators on how traditional finance can integrate with and provide essential services to the crypto industry. Bank of New York is a New York state chartered bank that has been actively working with crypto companies. And this has been facilitated by clear guidance to banks from the New York's Department of Financial Services and has led to a vibrant crypto ecosystem in New York for crypto companies and traditional financial institutions. New York's leadership here demonstrates the importance of a strong state pathway for stablecoin regulation. Can you talk about the importance of working with the New York's DFS and building a strong, well-regulated crypto ecosystem in New York?
Thank you very much, Congressman, for your question. We work very closely with the New York DFS and with all our regulators. And given the evolving nature of this space, it's very important to have that very engaged dialogue on a continuous basis to ensure that, again, we know the clarity that we can operate in. And as these rules evolve and as the ecosystem evolve, we can make sure that there's a two-way communication. But clear and consistent framework across the entire ecosystem needs to be upheld at all times. And it needs to not be, whether you choose a state pathway or whether you choose a federal pathway, we need to have consistency at the federal level for our regulations and our legislation so that we can ensure the integrity of the entire ecosystem and all players are meeting that high standard.
Thank you. You spoke about Paxio's history with the New York State DFS in your testimony. What do you see as the advantages of state regulation as a stablecoin issuer?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. The New York DFS was the first regulator in the world to approve the issuance of a regulated stablecoin. And I think that underscores the importance of having a state pathway that allows innovation to happen and continue to happen. In fact, the regulations and the framework that the DFS has constructed has been, I think, the cornerstone for a number of regulators around the world as they have built their frameworks. I think that really shows how important it is for the states to be able to lead. If we didn't have New York leading, today there wouldn't be a prudentially regulated stablecoin issued from the United States.
I, like many of my colleagues, have concerns about the use of stablecoins and other digital assets by illicit actors. And I appreciate that you and I have had the opportunity to discuss the importance of including strong illicit financing protections in any stablecoin bill that becomes law. What is your perspective on where the greatest risks are, and how should we think about addressing them?
I think it's very important to make sure that there are bank standards, which today Paxos adheres to, for AML, KYC, and BSA. The last thing we want is anybody using these products illegally. I think also this new technology creates new tools. So there has to be new frameworks, there has to be new ways to be able to understand how assets are being utilized. And in the one hand, we'll create new ways for people to have access to this, which is important. On the other hand, it could create new ways for people to use it illegally. And with the right types of protections and the right types of bank-like standards for knowing your customer, I think you can have a framework that allows you to marry both the risks and the rewards in the right way.
All right. Before we kick this over to Michael, we just want to share this other key thing here, and that is this. It's Monica Long's statement. Listen to what she has to say here. In the quote, she mentions this, and that is, she describes RLUSD as complementary to Ripple's existing XRP token. While the company projects ambitious growth, estimating the stablecoin could reach a $2 trillion market capitalization by 2028, the stablecoin enters a competitive market currently valued at $192.8 billion, with, of course, Tether leading at $141 billion. So, man, oh man, I got to kick it over to you, Michael, because the way I look at it, brother, is when we look at the statements in that hearing from the New York Department of Financial Services and the statement, obviously, from the perspective of Ripple President Monica Long, I think there's something bigger at play here. Again, your thoughts.
Well, let's say I looked up Mr. Meeks. He's attached actually to the House 5th District. And I want to say he was prior in New York State government because I recognize the name. So that's probably where that's from. But I do have concerns about how they always bring up illicit actors. It's a constant thing. But is it because they're compensating for that they cannot do it with cash? If you got cash, you got cash. Cash is king, that whole expression. But to summarize, I'm very wary of whenever they start bringing up illicit actors, because that just tells me that's another way to say the word control. So definitely you gotta really keep on the government on this so they don't take away your right to privacy. And right to privacy leads to all of our other rights that we enjoy. And now this may be, well, let me refrain from saying that. Let me just say New York State DFS is always being considered a standard by some people. And I think it's just an extra layer of control. So my opinion is to be very cautious with it. These are currencies, in my opinion, that falls under the rights of the federal government because the states can't print money. So I have some constitutional questions about that. But, they're the people in charge. So you gotta just kind of play along with them, I guess.
That's okay. I mean, to a degree. My own personal thoughts are in agreement with what you're saying. But I'm also looking at it from the perspective, and I'm sure you're aware of this, just like a lot of people, Silk Road. I don't think they want to see another case of Silk Road. We understood how that played out with BTC and so on. You have, and again, there's so many people to memorize, right? But what's his name from the Silk Road? He finally got released from prison. Was it just like, I think right after Trump?
Yeah, Trump released him.
Yeah. So you see those statements. It's like, there's something there in that regard. And I think what it is for one, you finally have a new SEC chair. We finally have a new first time ever, right? A crypto czar. Positive things to say the least.
Mhm.
But it's also like we don't want to go back to how it was with Gensler. All right, so how do we do that? Well, again, referencing the past, the Silk Road, and again, avoiding some of that. So to me, some of that hint of that terminology, yeah, BTC is totally different in regard to Ripple XRP as far as technology and so on. I think it gets back to that core foundation of, let's face it, Bitcoin, of supposedly being a peer-to-peer cash system. In the now, Ripple aligns more with that. But again, the uncertainties. But we're still not to the regulation phase yet.
Right.
Back to you.
No, that's why you got to always petition the government. You have to be involved. You can't just sit back and let other people take care of things. Freedom isn't free. It requires eternal vigilance. I want to say that was Ben Franklin that said that. So you got to be involved. You can't just sit back, watch the TV on whatever thing they tell you. And said you just got to be active. If you want to get rich and you want crypto to do it for you, you got to be active on what's going on in crypto world, and that includes government affairs. So yeah, it's not easy, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So yeah, it's just something we have to do. And you're right, we have to be cautious and make sure that any events like Silk Road don't happen again, because people are people and they're going to do things like that. Fortunately, Trump even said Operation Choke Point 2.0 is over. So that's always a good thing, too. We just have to make sure that eventually a digital Bill of Rights, in my humble opinion, comes in. That would prevent a lot of power plays with different states. Like you had Alabama drop a case, but Oregon's pursuing a case against, I believe it was Coinbase. A lot of this needs to get nipped in the bud by responsible regulation. So we need to let our representatives know. We need to, it might seem like it doesn't mean anything to fire off a few emails, but you know what? It's better you fire off a few emails than not do anything at all. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that statement. The guy's name I was looking for, because let's face it, we do a lot of research and whatnot, and there's so many names, so many different cryptocurrencies, so many projects, so much news. Ross Ulbricht is
That's it,
Ulbricht.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we wrap this up, I want to point this out to you guys. I have a video also with Will Fix. So we're talking obviously about New York Department of Financial Services, NYDFS. Well, it's interesting that BNY Mellon, again, think about this, B as in bank, NY, so Bank of New York, Mellon. You have Matthew Mellon. I'll give you guys just a little taste of this. Dating back to specifically, I want to say the early days of Ripple, so like 2017, give or take. He invested $2 million into Ripple XRP. I don't know if he did leverage or any of that, which, by the way, on BTC, you can do up to 500x. Again, guys, use extreme caution. If you don't know what you're doing, by all means, don't get wrecked. But he turned $2 million investment into $280 million with Ripple XRP, which basically tells me he rode that up to the top. And again, people have pointed out, well, all this talk lately about BNY and Swift. And it's like, I look at it this way, and I'll share this with you guys soon. It's like, you are trying to tell me that the Mellons don't talk about their previous experiences of how well they did with not Ripple, everybody, but XRP. Matthew Mellon is that plug. Be out on the lookout for that video. Might have already appeared by now. Whatever the case be, you will see it, and it's worth paying attention to. The New York Department of Financial Services, New York BNY Mellon, all worth paying attention to because of the new financial system that definitely is, Ripple XRP is definitely part of that. So glad to bring it to you guys. thanks so much for tuning in. And if you listen to this entire outline, simply do us a solid, if you don't mind, and type in this key phrase into the comments, and that is, you waiting for it? You ready for it? Drum roll, please. Stick it to the man.
Yeah.
And we'll know that you listen to the entire outline. And by the way, call to action, everybody. Call to action. You appreciate the content over here on Maximus Crypto. This is also, of course, on Michael Golpe's channel. But on my channel, call to action. Go over and subscribe. This man is awesome. Go to @Michael Golpe on YouTube, all one word, just like how you see it spelled right here on StreamYard, right? On YouTube, go like, comment, sub, all that stuff. Share his channel and so on. Get used to this brother. This is now, like, I think the 3rd or 4th time we've done a collaboration, which is awesome. Yes. He could also be followed on X at also Michael Golpe.
Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.
We'll see you on the next one. You can get a discount basically from going into the affiliate link, which is in all the live video descriptions and recorded and so on. And for the yahoos that are out there, they're like, this is just a shield. And, we'll point this out. And it's a great point. Were you aware that you don't necessarily get a discount link just going straight to the site? No, you actually have to go through a platform like this. So how cool is that? I don't think anybody's complaining about that. But anyway, use the link, get a discount. There's another one here. If you're the type of person you want to get one for you and your significant other, you can get 2 of them. They actually have another promotion, which is this, and I think this is cool. You can get an all-in-one card wallet plus backup card package. Interesting. I thought that was cool. And again, one of the main key things I like about the Decent wallet is not having to do the red tape of jumping through all the hoops for XDC and the custom folder. I mean, Edward Vincent can vouch on that. Some of you guys can too as well in regards to Ledger. That was a pain in the butt. You don't have that problem. You literally open up your phone, it's on your app, track everything that's going on, right? And saying goes, not your keys, not your crypto. You know the drill. Check it all out though if you wish to do so. It is truly the cold storage solution that I use for the most part. There's still some on Ledger that I kind of split it up on it and so on. So it is what it is. But if I have preference over one, I'm going with this one. A lot easier to use and so on. And some people, even to this day, still ask me which one to use.